Wuji City, Kaiyuan High School. In the Recreation Room 25, Su Lai does 100 levels of purification and decides to stop there. He stands in the circle of the blue aura and decides to try again in the hope that something will change now. Standing in some kind of capsule, the levels are being counted and the score exceeds 99 levels. Suddenly, the system throws an error and Su Lai can't believe it's happening again. The capsule explodes again along with Su Lai's t-shirt. He closes his eyes and sighs heavily. It's just some kind of nightmare. Is it possible to continue laying the foundation after the 10th level? But the guy is already at such a high level. Someone outside is trying to open the door to the room where Su Lai is, while asking what kind of explosions he has again. Decides his time for solitude is over. It turns out to be Headman Lu Xing. When he opens the door, he sees a damn disgruntled girl behind her, who is dissatisfied with wondering if he knows how many times other students have complained about him to the teacher. She goes inside, continuing to rant that the girl has already defended the possibility of Su Lai being in this place a bunch of times this month, because if it wasn't for her, then after the first explosion in the shelter everything would have ended. When Lu Xing is inside, he just freezes from shock. The place is completely ruined. Some things are burning. Others are no longer subject to repair. Lu Xing covers her mouth with her palm. She can't even imagine that Su Lai practiced here. He explains that the device for determining the level explodes for the 5th time. The girl looks at the form in her hands and asks at what stage of self-improvement the guy is. Su Lai honestly admits that at the stage of Kai purification. She yells at him for not having moved on to laying the groundwork yet. When the guy honestly answers that he is at level 10,000, Lu Xing laughs. He does not know how to lie at all. All beginners know that there are only 10 levels at the cleaning stage, and then the foundation is laid. The names of the students are written in the prefect's leaflet, and all of them are at a level higher than Su Lai. She sees how the student is getting gloomy and tries to cheer up. The guy knows that everyone needs this solitude to get into a good university. The entrance exam to the Martial Arts Institute will be held next month, and only those who have passed the foundation stage can register for the entrance exam. In other classes, almost everyone has already switched to mortgages, but while they are under protection, the number of monsters outside the school is growing every day. The number has doubled since last year. According to experts, all of humanity is waiting for a disappointing conclusion. People are returning to hunger, and this time it will last at least 50 years. As soon as this period begins, the monsters will become even fiercer than before, and the number will only grow. It will be difficult to cope with the current group of warriors alone. Therefore, starting from the entrance exams at school, students will have twice as many resources as before entering the university, and the study time will be reduced to only 3 years. In addition, applying to the university this year is much more difficult. When the headman leaves, Su Lai angrily punches the wall. He only has a month left. A message arrives on the guy's phone from Lu Xing, who sent him a martial arts uniform. He immediately writes to this forum about his problem. 10 minutes later, there are 0 reactions and 6 views on the post. Su Lai does not understand why this is so. His post is a sensation. Maybe he is the only person in the world with such a problem. All the people before him, when they reach the 10th level in the stage of Kai purification, the foundation is automatically created. This is the current law of the cultivation world. It cannot be changed, so there must be something wrong with Su Lai. The guy drops the phone and leans his body against the wall. After all, Su Lai feels that the aura in his body is really strengthening, but it does not concentrate at one point, as if it flows throughout his body. Is this possible? The loudspeaker announces that there will be a meeting at the martial arts stadium in 30 minutes. Students, almost knocking each other down, run to the stadium. A big boy stands out among them, who pushes everyone apart with a shout. He says Uncle Ben is only at 10% of his leg strength, and they can't keep up with him anymore. If students want to be admitted to martial arts classes, they must work harder. But suddenly running Su Lai makes him stop, then blocks his way. Poking his finger at him, he asks if this guy is the former first place. Su Lai still looks so shabby. Students who recently rushed to the stadium in a stormy stream are now looking at the unfolding scene with chuckles. Su Lai does not show any aggression. With a sweet smile, he asks if his name is Ju. No, but Jiao Sha. The last syllable translates as stupid stupid. The bigger guy, sputtering, shouts that his name is Ju Tao. Su Lai should have remembered that by now. In that case, what does Zhu Sha want from him? Su Lai remembers what happened last time. He beat Zhu Tao until he bled, coming out of the fight victorious. Doesn't he remember that? The girls behind giggle, asking if Zhu Tao is a masochist since he is constantly looking for a meeting with Su Lai. Then one of the sycophants whispers in the elder's ear that Su Lai is still at the purification stage. This quickly becomes a reason for a new mockery. Number 1 was not even able to build the foundation for laying the foundation, and now he will be crushed by a person who is at the 3rd level of laying the foundation. Everyone starts whispering that this time Zhu Tao will come out of the fight the winner, because he wins the strongest. The guy remembers how for many years he was given an example of Su Lai. Try better to at least try to catch up with him. The girls refused Zhu Tao because they liked Su Lai more. He was ignored by the teachers and rejected by the girl, and all because of Su Lai. The younger one beats off the hands of the older one, who grabbed him by the collar of his hoodie and asks if it's all because Zhu himself did not try hard enough. This infuriates the elder even more. The aura around Tu turns orange, like a bonfire flame, and tells Su Lai to start praying that he will not meet Uncle Ben in the next life. The 3rd level of the laying stage looks very powerful. Su Lai, summoning his own blue-colored power, covers his head with his hands, and Zhu flies into the wall, leaving a huge dent in him. Can the stage of purification surpass the stage of laying? Then why did the elder suddenly fly away like that? Covering his head with a hood, Su Lai silently leaves while both praises and new threats are shouted after him. He decides to go to the gathering, and then maybe the teacher will answer Su Lai's questions. The guy goes outside the school, and a ringing voice wishes Su Lai's student a successful exam. However, he knows that if the problem with the purification stage is not solved, then he will not see admission. The Kaiyuan school celebrates the 100th ceremony of admission to the educational institution. At the training ground of the high school, Su Lai finds the curator of the 3rd group of the 3rd year, Sun Huade. He asks the guy how the month of solitude went, and Su Lai confesses to a small problem. Huade decides to look at the progress for all that time. Su Lai invokes his aura, and what he sees amazes the teacher. The guy's breathing is very dense, not that Huade, but even the director is not able to create such an elementary thing at the same level as Su Lai. In that case, why is he still at the stage of purification? The teacher does not say anything new. The martial arts university has already met students, but it was only a month before the exams began. During it, Su Lai should go to the stage of laying. Otherwise, the guy will have to change his specialty. Su Lai shouldn't worry so much. Everything will settle by itself. After all, his future doesn't end here. As soon as the meeting is over, the trial of the kingdom will begin. Su Lai can leave by himself, stating any reason, because they don't know what his cultivation base is. Huade knows that this guy won't give up so easily. He asks what Su Lai's Kai purification level is. The guy replies that he is at the 10,000 level. The teacher's world seems to crack from this recognition. What did this student just say? There is an explosion on the training ground. We urgently need help. There is a wounded man here. The girl's injury is very serious, and it looks like it was inflicted by someone at the stage of laying. The second sun seems to light up in the sky, and it seems that the director is approaching. At the guard post, one of the guards decides to take a nap, because what can happen at a school where all the strongest have gathered today? He does not notice that there is a gang of thugs behind him. The second guard immediately asks who they are. If the students, then let them show their cards. The largest of them, a man, slams the first guard into the ground. Apparently, he was not taught that power is a ticket to any place. The still alive guard reaches for the walkie-talkie to report this, while his comrade seems to be no longer breathing. Behind the school employee stands another bandit with scarlet eyes, who, without blinking, deals with him in a matter of seconds. Leaving behind bloody tears, they go deep into the building. Students admire their director. The ability to fly on a golden sword can be achieved only after reaching the golden pill. The name of the principal of Kaiyuan High School is Wu Defe. The wounded girl, before losing consciousness, talks about Ermugand. Defe asks first of all to help her. Then he announces the suspension of the 100th test ceremony in honor of admission to the university. Something serious must have really happened, because this has not been done since the founding of Kaiyuan. In a powerful voice, the director tells the students to behave more restrained. Only that the school received news that the Order of Ermugand, operating in the city, was involved in everything. In order to ensure safety, the school management decided to restrict free access to the exit. Each curator must ensure the safety of students. Everyone needs to follow the instructions in an organized manner. Panic is rising among the students. Everyone is afraid of this order. While Su Lai, along with the rest of the students, is walking in the direction of the school, the headman grabs his hand. Lu Xing takes him in a completely opposite direction, saying that it has to do with his exams. Going into some room, she shows the guy an ad offering a reward in Wuji City for some kind of mission. The thing is that Ermugand is planning to invade their school. If Su Lai catches them, then the university will definitely accept him. Unfolding the ad, she shows what exactly is written on it. A worldwide search for criminals from the order, the reward for the capture of which is 1 million. Lu Xing's parents are law enforcement officers, so she quickly found out about everything. The head asks not to worry about anything, because she will find those who can help Su Lai. Lu Xing conspiratorially says that the reward will be divided in half, and thus everyone will remain in the black. However, Su Lai is in no hurry to be a hero at all. On the contrary, he throws away the sheet and wants to return to the hostel. The guy is still at the stage of Kai purification, so if he goes to fight with such killers, he will definitely end up in a body bag. Lu Xing angrily stomps his foot. It was such an act of mercy on her part. In the schoolyard, the blonde guy who recently bullied Su Lai along with Xu Tao calls teacher son. He tells the man about the fight between Tao and Su. They both have several broken ribs, vomits blood, and in a terrible general condition. The teacher, although he asks to take him to them, but suspects something, Lai is still purifying Kai. He is not a match for Tao. Meanwhile, in the men's dormitory of the 3rd year, Ermugan is in full charge inside the building. Their current mission is to kill the entrance exam supervisor Huang Heapo within 24 hours. The order team that came to school today consists of Ao Ma, Wang He, Xin Guang, Ma Jixang, and Liang Yangwei. Ao Mao orders everyone to disperse around the school, and they immediately execute the order. Su Lai is sitting in her room and sticking her phone in. The post in which he wrote about his problem is gaining popularity, as comments have already begun to appear. In one of them, Meng Hui with a basic level of cultivation writes that he does not think that it is possible to be at the 10,000 level of Kai purification, which Su Lai talks about. Moon Hui instructively continues to teach what Su Lai already knows. First of all, Su Lai should understand that after reaching the 10th level of Kai purification, regardless of what skills you possess, in any case, the basis for cultivation is formed. If a guy has 10,000 levels, then his energy must be inexhaustible. Su Lai is shocked to realize this fact. If he has so much energy, then it turns out that he is invincible. Nevertheless, Huey suggests checking the reliability of the device that is being measured. He complacently thinks that the current applicants are some kind of abnormal, since he has to respond to such messages. Su Lai leaves her room, noting that the corridors are somehow too quiet. He walks down the corridor and does not see the representative of Ermugan coming from the corner. Wang He slows down his pace. Are there supposed to be people here at this time? Their eyes meet, and Su Lai wonders who this guy is and why he's never seen him before. Fortunately for the order, Wang He is wearing a school uniform, otherwise he would definitely have been caught. Wang He, however, quickly realizes that he has a puncture in the plan. He has a tattoo on his neck, by which Su Lai could quickly find out his identity. The man tells him what he saw, but it seems to Su Lai that the stranger only decided to quarrel with him. But he saw the tattoo. In this case, the villain has no other choice but to kill the kid. He summons his power and swiftly attacks Su Lai. It's only when Wang He rushes at him that Su Lai finally notices the tattoo that identifies him as a member of the order. Wang He punches, but the guy dodges, even though it was difficult to do. If the villain hits him, then the student will definitely die, because he must be at the peak of laying the foundation. Wang He finds himself behind his back, and Su Lai can't do anything. She can't even defend herself properly. But suddenly the guy's whole body is pierced by a blue-colored force, and the villain can no longer strike the blow he wanted. When a student hits back, Wang He begins to doubt that he is at the level of Kai purification. Even the representatives of the Golden Pill, he did not meet such energy. The villain is angry. How dare this guy behave like this, being at the level of Kai purification? He exhales steam from his nose. Wang He's eyes are burning red. There's not much left of the human ones, and there are flashes of aura around him that seem to be able to kill just by being around. This time, he will definitely kill Su Lai. The guy can only defend himself. When Wang He's power mixes with the student's power, it begins to be absorbed. The red light disappears completely, leaving only pure blue. Does Su Dai have endless energy? Closing his eyes, the student punches, and the opponent flies into the opposite wall, leaving a huge dent. When the dust settled, Su Lai saw that Wang He was unconscious, and thick blood was flowing from the back of his head. How could he defeat a man with the foundation laid? Something is definitely wrong here. Su Lai reflects that during the battle, Wang He's blood began to boil. If he took some medicine, he could easily have a myocardial infarction. He comes to the conclusion that he was just lucky. It would be better not to leave Wang He here, in case the allies see. To begin with, Su Lai will hide his body, and then go to Teacher Sun to discuss what happened. Huey arrives at the training building, where Zhu Tao is lying unconscious. He gives the student medicine and immediately asks what happened. Tao barely talks about the fight with Su Lai, how they quarreled, and he flared up so much that he slammed him into the wall. A person with a stage of laying suffered from the purification of Kai. It's just impossible. When the students leave, the school security appears. A strict-looking girl reports that the director has upgraded the mission to the rank of the killers have reached the 3rd level of laying the foundations. Besides, they have deadly weapons with them. There have been very few missions of this rank in recent months, so the order has probably prepared well. According to the surveillance cameras, Teacher Sun finds out that Su Lai really defeated Zhu Tao. It looks like Su Lai used sudden strikes. There is a sudden burst of energy, which leads to a critical energy value. There is a random impulse, thanks to which you can defeat an opponent in just one blow, whose rank is an order of magnitude higher than your own. But there are very few such cases. Cultivation levels, Kai purification, foundation laying, golden pill, yuaning, transformation, return, deliverance, Mahayana, and disaster. Su Lai has good abilities, so Huade decides to help him with admission to the martial arts university. On the ceiling of the observation room, right above the teacher's head, Xinguang crawls like a spider. There's a knife in his teeth. He jumps on top of Huade, but the moment of surprise did not succeed. Sun attacks in response immediately. Xinguang says that initially he just wanted to find some information in the observation room, but did not think that he would meet someone. He, like Wang He, has a distinctive tattoo on his neck. It is by this drawing that Sun recognizes him as a member of the order, who pretended to be students and thus got inside. The small and nimble Xin attacks the heavier Huade, who is not a bit shy in front of the enemy. The teacher repels attack after attack, until at some point he hits the killer in the stomach and knocks him down on the spot. So strong, so there is no other way out for the bruise. He throws a smoke screen, depriving Huade of sight. We need to report that the Ermugan have infiltrated the campus. In the dormitory, Ma Jixang and Liang Yonghui are waiting for Wang He, who for some reason has not yet returned. Ma Jixang goes in search of a friend, angry at Yonghui, who is too proud of having reached the golden pill. After the next corridor turn, he sees an incredible picture. Wang He is being dragged by some boy by the hair, and apparently, his friend is dead. Jixang hesitates to attack Su Lai. If he was able to defeat Wang He, then he is definitely not a weakling. What if Ma ends up like Wang He? No way. Only one thing remains. Jixang takes out a weapon from his breast pocket, which is engulfed in flames. This is the latest development of Ermugand. Absorbs spiritual power, and then throws it out, increases the power of the blow several times compared to the usual strength of cultivators. The power of the shot will be more powerful than during the golden pill period. Jixang jumps out from around the corner, pointing a gun at Su Lai, and it seems that everyone in the academy hears the shot. The bullet hits the back of Su Lai's head, but nothing happens. The guy stops, wanting to see what flew into his hood. Su Lai picks up the bullet pressed into the floor and examines the piece of iron. Near the dormitory, Sun communicates with the director of the deaf, who noticed fluctuations in strength. It is assumed that this is the work of the order. In the bushes, the director notices someone's silhouette and is about to send a ball of power to him, when Lu Xing jumps out of the bushes. She comes out to them on the playground, explaining that she was looking for Su Lai. It turns out that Su Lai, unlike the others, stayed in the dorm. Most likely, he has already encountered members of the Ermugand. Huade, not listening to anyone's objections, goes to the rescue of his disciple. He knows that even if Su Dai uses the same technique as during the fight with Zhu Tao, he will still not come out victorious. His opponent is at the rank of the golden pill. Director Wu blocks Sun's way. He can't leave it like that. The director, along with the teacher and 2 people from the guard, decide to go together. Su Lai looks at the man at the end of the corridor, who apparently dropped this piece of iron. However, he has a revolver in his hand. Are you trying to kill that one? Jixang's body refuses to move, although he needs to leave as soon as possible. He already imagines how this guy will attack him and start torturing him. The killer's death will definitely not be painless. Su Lai can't ignore the incident. He decides to use the bullet to distract attention, and then strike and defeat Jixang. He throws a piece of iron with force, and the killer can only mentally ask for help. Why isn't his body moving? The bullet flies into the center of the forehead and pierces it through. Jixang falls dead. Su Lai takes the pistols of a member of the order with him, perhaps to use in the future. The student does not notice lurking around the corner, like his predecessor Jixang, Liang Yonghui. The killer does not understand what is wrong with this guy. How could he defeat 2 of his associates at once? Fighting face to face is certain death, but if Yonghui leaves, he will also die, and attacking surreptitiously is still risky. Suddenly, he hears the screams of the teachers from the stairs and decides to retreat. It's not the place for him to fight with the owner of the golden pill right now. On the stairs, along with other employees and the head of the class, there is Director Yu. Su-Lai hides the gun in her belt, recognizing the man by his voice. If they see two members of the order killed, they will think that Su-Lai himself is from Ermugand. Without thinking twice, he decides to improvise, make it look like they attacked each other themselves. Su-Lai folds their bodies as if they were fighting, although these poses don't look much like signs of a struggle. An old director appears around the corner, who immediately asks what Su-Lai is doing here. While they are talking, Youngwee jumps out of the dorm window, breaking it. He puts his palm against the wall of the building and uses the evil power of purple. A hole is formed in space, from which the mouth first appears, and then the eye of a huge snake. In the corridor of the building, Su-Lai tries to find an excuse for being here. The director looks at the killers lying in strange poses and asks what it is. Defa turns to the guy, and he is covered in cold sweat. The next moment, the man calls for the sword. He knows that Su-Lai is still at the stage of Kai purification, so someone else is responsible for the death of these two. The director squats down in front of them and examines the bodies. Summoning his power, Defa comes to a shocking conclusion. The killers are at the stage of laying the foundation. How could someone kill these two at once? The body of one of them has not yet transformed, and was also often subjected to fights. Judging by the blue swollen veins, Wang He took stimulant medications all year round. The cause of death is soul rupture. Next, the director examines Jixang's body. The bullet's blow to the forehead turned out to be fatal. The one who inflicted it is at the level of the golden pill, no less, which means that Su-Lai is not involved in the deaths. Pushing back the collar of the sweatshirt, Defa finds a tattoo on the dream between the shoulder and neck. Everything is clear, members of Ermugand. The man finds a tetragonal seal in Wang He's pocket. Except for a specialist, no one else knows how to open it. The material is very hard, so it will not work to break it. Defa asks Sun to send this item to the laboratory, but suddenly the cube falls and rolls right at Su-Lai's feet. Everyone freezes when it comes into contact with the toe of the sneaker, but nothing happens. It just opens up and suddenly starts burning. However, Huade is still in tension. Is the disciple's energy raging again? Su-Lai awkwardly scratches the back of his head and wants to pick up the broken seal from the ground, as he finds a communicator inside. Using a little energy, the communicator opens, and now everyone present knows the purpose of the Order's mission. Find an observer for the entrance exams of Huan Heabo. 2 people should do this, while the rest will destroy the energy collection tower. The goal of the Order is not the observer, but the tower of energy. The 2 dead are just puppets. As soon as the tower collapses, about 60% of the buildings will be unusable, as they will not receive energy, and the energy stored in the tower will immediately splash out with a force equivalent to an atomic bomb, which will be distributed throughout the city. Ermugand decided to attack not the school, but the whole city of Wuji. After what he saw, Su-Lai raised his hand up to ask a question. If this is all as they say in the communicator, then how could such important information be in the hands of the wrong people? Lu Xing absolutely agrees with him. All of the above may be fake to raise panic among people. However, the director of Defa answers that, regardless of the authenticity, they must protect the tower. This is, after all, a matter of city security. If they don't do anything, then all cultivators will fail. Suddenly, it turns out that there is no signal in the building. Defa orders us to split up to spread the news. The students run after Teacher Sun and the principal to the stairs, while 2 of the guards turn into the corridor. Running out onto a flight of stairs, the director stops. How so? The stairs down are gone. Su-Lai takes a step, but Defa stops him with his hand and says that this is all the tricks of Ermugand to lure them into a trap and cut off communication with the outside world. To begin with, it is worth finding out whether it is possible to get to other places. From the space between the worlds, someone's claws suddenly appear and then red eyes. The group returns to the corridor, and the headman discovers that the bodies of the assassins from the Order have disappeared. The director checks the floor and finds only dust. The bodies weren't taken away, they just disappeared. However, here are the miracles. They are not on the same floor at all, although, as Lu Xing notes, they were returning the same way. It was worth 2 students to turn away for a second, as suddenly the director and the teacher disappear. They were just standing here. Su-Lai uncompromisingly grabs the girl by the hand, plunging her into a thick blush. They should stick together, since there is no Teacher Sun and the director, now it is impossible to separate. But the elder ignores all the excuses, too caught up in the moment that the guy took her hand. A monster with blue eyes is crawling on the ceiling behind them. He opens his mouth to bite off Lu Xing's euphoric head first, but Su Lai reacts earlier, managing to push her away. He shouts to run, and they run as fast as they can. Running into some kind of closet, Su Lai closes the door and asks the girl to hold on, since you can't let the monster get close. They clutter up the door with everything they found in the room and only then were able to calmly exhale. Lu Xing and Su Lai's hands are still firmly connected, and the guy anxiously asks if his girlfriend is okay. Turning away from him, Lu Xing squeezes out that, of course, everything is fine with her. There was a beast with a huge toothy mouth in the ventilation hole of the room. The beast punches the grate separating the room and the pipe with its paw, and growls at 2 students. Lu Xing throws himself on the neck of Su Lai, who is not at a loss, boldly looks into the eyes of danger. He almost forgot about another of his weapons, although the guy does not quite understand how to use it. However, in such a situation there is no choice. Su Lai points the gun at the beast and boldly pulls the trigger. Lu Xing turned away so as not to see what was happening. The student succeeded. The monster falls and does not move anymore. Opening one eye, the girl looks at the revolver in the hands of a friend. Su Lai immediately explains where he got it from. From people from the order. He just forgot to give it to the director. Lu Xing easily believes him. Clasping her knees with her hands, she looks at the bleeding beast and asks what it is. However, having gathered his thoughts, the headman answers his own question. In front of him is an ancient horned dragon Astrosratops. He has a mobile body. His head is covered with protruding horns, very sharp, by the way. And most often this beast lives in groups. They kind of met a social monster, so for sure he's not alone here. Most likely, there are about 5 or even more of them at school now. Now there are 2 students waiting outside the door of the room. Su Lai looks through the peephole at what is happening outside and realizes that they will have a chance if the beast remains alone. The look of the guy's green eyes falls on Lu Xing sitting on the floor. She looks worried and, although not as scared as before, but the remnants of fear remained on her face. Su Lai tries her best to cheer her up, asks her not to worry too much, everything will be fine. As soon as they find the source of the dragons, they will be able to return the dormitory to its original state and get out of here. Besides, hadn't they just dealt with one of the monsters? At the school building, Liang Yonghui and Xin Guang are waiting for something. Guan sneezes and asks how the plan is going. Yonghui exhales smoke from his pipe and informs that Wang He and Ma Jixang are dead. Xin asks how it happened. The answer is simple. These 2 underestimated their enemy. In Yonghui's eyes, the student who defeated his colleagues is an incredibly strong cultivator, and he sincerely hopes that fate will not push them again. Guan wants to report everything, but Yonghui does not allow this to be done. If the commander finds out that they could not deal with the disciple, then he will definitely give them another beating. But Yonghui did not see the commander in action, and with the task unfulfilled, both of them are definitely finished. Liang grins. Don't worry about the mission. He lured the headmaster and that student into a trap. Now nothing will stop them. If they complete the task, then no one will even remember about Wang He and Ma Jixang. Using the communicator, Liang opens a projection image of the city. It's time to continue. Su Lai, finally waiting for the dragon to be left alone, decides to act and opens the door. He runs out of the room, dragging Lu Xing by the hand and aiming at the beast at the same time. The dragon does not have time to do anything, just looks at the approaching death in fright. While Lu Xing and Su Lai are killing monsters on the 2nd floor of the dorm, Sun and Defa are on the 8th floor trying to find their students. The director opens the door to the next room, and through a small crack you can see 2 pairs of blue eyes glowing on the other side. The animals jump on people, but Defa manages to create a dome and protect himself and his colleague. The director orders Sun to move on, and here he will figure it out on his own. Defa gathers his strength into a fist and attacks the monster that opens its mouth, sending it to hell. Behind the man is Sun, who tied the 2nd dragon with 2 magic chains. It's been a long time since the director shook his gray hair like that. The guy, trembling with fear, tries to drive the monster away. At the same time, he defends himself only with some sticks, so he himself understands that he has no chance. The dragon raises its clawed paw, and all the guy can do is close his eyes and try to cover his own face with his hands. But, it would seem, imminent death does not overtake him. The monster falls, dead, and behind him with a good-natured smile are Lu Xing and Su Lai holding a gun in his hand. The guy is crying with happiness that they came to help him. It comes as a great surprise to Su Lai that a stranger recognizes him. It turns out that he remembered Su Lai thanks to last year's admission ceremony, at which he gave a speech. Su Lai has always been a role model. He asks why this guy is still in the dorm. Didn't he hear warnings about moving to a safer place? The guy scratches his head. He overslept everything, and when he left the room, he ran into a monster nose to nose. Su Lai asks to follow them and keep up. Inside the building, they find a portal from which the monsters came out. It is dark blue in color and attracts a lot of attention. The trio is amazed at such an unusual find. On the other side of the portal, 2 more dragons are visible and it is unknown how many of them are still there. Su Lai boldly comes forward and informs that he will go alone. If he does not return, then let them run. It is not worth waiting for him. He gives Lu Xing a revolver in case of a dangerous situation, and she asks him to be careful. Su Lai carefully descends the steps and touches the edge of the portal with her hand. It seems that this gap in space is the main reason for the appearance of dragons in the dorm. If you destroy the portal, then everything will return to normal. Su Lai freezes when she feels someone's gaze on her. The paw of a huge red dragon, unlike its predecessors, reaches out to him and hits him sharply. The beast misses, but the guy flies away from the shock wave. The dragon opens its mouth, which has at least 24 sharp teeth. There is no meaning in his eyes, except the desire to kill and eat. Lu Xing is clutching the gun tightly in her hands, and the guy behind her is trembling, afraid to move. Su Lai looks through the portal at the sleeping monsters and realizes that the sounds are not transmitted to them. You need to make a decision quickly, otherwise the beasts may wake up. He hits the dragon's muzzle with his kai, but the blow had no effect. The guy's power dissipated exactly at the moment when Su Lai touched the rough skin of this dragon. The beast hits back, and this time Su Lai will definitely get injured. Because of a strong attack, he flies back, collecting all the stones from the floor. Lu Xing covers her mouth with her palm, not knowing what to do in such a situation. It becomes obvious that Su Lai is not an opponent to this beast. While the guy is bleeding, Lu Xing tries to put his thoughts in order, because now she is the only one who can help a friend. The monster is different from the previous ones. Its outer shell is not so easy to break through. Su Lai's own forces do not help him, so his usual attack will not change anything. Lu Xing takes aim and fires 3 shots at the red-haired monster. But these bullets are like water from a goose. They only angered him more and forced him to turn his fanged muzzle towards the 2 guys. The headman can't believe that it didn't work. Su Lai, feeling that the smell is fried, shouts to her to run away. The dragon approaches the couple, and Lu Xing strikes randomly at his muzzle, ordering him not to even try to approach. But would the dragon listen to her? His paw grabs Su Lai exactly at the moment when the mouth is already open in order to mortally wound the girl. Teeth snap at her chest, and then he turns to the offender. Su Lai, summoning all the power he had, holds the dragon and does not let him move from his place. He won't let his elder be harmed, even if he doesn't dare to be distracted by someone else, because Su Lai is his opponent. The guy's eyes are burning with a fierce fire. Now he will send the unwanted guest back home. With a flourish, Su Lai throws the dragon into the portal, to the surprise of the monsters living there in peace and tranquility. The dragon flies a few meters inside the portal, and then the student closes it, as if sealing a gap in the wall. It's better for these dragons to stay there forever now. The red-haired monster roars with anger. On the sports field, Liang Yonghui sets up some kind of device, promising that very soon everyone will know its power. He is sitting in the lotus position at the very top, when suddenly he is called out with a question from which course the killer is. Yonghui did not expect at all that he would meet someone here. Teacher Cheng Feng says that all the students had to evacuate. Did they forget to notify this one? What's he doing here? Next to Feng is another teacher, Cheng Lu, apparently the brother of the first. Yonghui grimaces, how troublesome it all is, and he was not going to strain himself at all. However, it seems there is nothing else left. One of the teachers, it is unclear who is the first to notice the snake tattoos on the criminal's neck, so it is not difficult to put 2 and 2 together. Before the Cheng brothers have time to notify the others, Yonghui attacks with red lightning, falling directly into the space between the 2 teachers. Do they still hope that someone will come to their aid? None of Kaiyuan's teachers are capable of anything. To attack, the killer uses dark flames. With a high-speed punch, he summons spiritual forces to distort space and produce vibrations. 2 insignificant people were very unlucky to meet such an opponent as Liang Yonghui. But the Cheng brothers are not shy in front of his crazy face. Taking one hand behind their backs, they gather their strength and expose a light ball in front of the killer. Is this a joint cultivation? Joint cultivation is one of the types of cultivation in which the forces of 2 or more people are combined to produce a powerful attack. The forces form a perfectly round ball, connecting with each other, and now the only question is which one will overcome the other. Yonghui swears. The previous technique consumed too much energy, and the dark flame also spent a decent amount of energy. There was very little Kai left. Two silhouettes can be seen jumping out of the smoke, and Liang barely manages to step aside as Cheng Feng lands in front of him. From behind his back, his brother immediately appears, who, bypassing the villain from the side, immediately attacks him with his foot. Yang Wei puts a block, but it doesn't help him much. When it seems to the killer that the attack is over, Feng comes up from behind, grabs Lu by the shoulder and, leaning on him, hits him in the face with his foot. Lu then attacks with his fist with the strength gathered in it, and Yang Wei has no chance to dodge. However, quite suddenly, a tall, muscular blonde man with crossed arms stands between the opponents, another member of the order, judging by the way he gave orders, a commander named Alma. Another one. However, there is no time to be afraid. Either you will kill, or you. The martial spirit of the brothers does not touch Alma in any way. With a powerful hand he strikes at a lower Lu. Feng is amazed at his brother's failure and rushes after him. But the commander only says that this one is looking for death, and by force, like an arrow, pierces the stomach of the second of the brothers. Yang Wei stands behind and looks at how the commander quickly and in 2 counts deals with the brothers. Alma is not only the commander, but also the owner of the golden pill. There is still a dome over the dormitory, but it is already beginning to dissipate. Su Lai is lying on the ground with her arms outstretched and rejoicing that everything has returned to its former course. Lu Xing is sitting next to him, and on the left is the guy they recently rescued. Defao realizes that a strange spiritual force has disappeared when a message arrives on his mobile phone asking him to pay the outstanding payment. But this does not particularly please him. They have been locked in the dormitory for too long. It is completely unclear how far the order has progressed in its plans. We need to gather all the teachers as soon as possible. Defao leaves the floor where the dragon's corpse lies, which has broken through the wall, and asks Teacher Sun to direct the entire teaching staff to the tower. A bathhouse with a sharp and beautiful spire sparkles among the rest. It looks very majestic against the background of gray high-rise buildings, although it itself does not have any colorful painting. A blue crystal of power sparkles above the 2 battlements of the tower. Next to the tower, several teachers are flying on swords. Lu Cheng, the special teacher, says with a frown on his face that they have all already received a message from the director. They need to guard the energy tower as carefully as possible to secure the rest of the city. Yuan Zhen is responsible for everyone. You can't let the members of Ermugan get in. Their mission is extremely simple. Lu Cheng asks his colleague if she has contacted other teachers. Chen Ying reports as if hesitantly, Sun and Defao are together, but the connection with the Chen brothers is lost. Commander Alma grabs Yang Wei's neck and squeezes it. Two at the stage of laying the foundations almost defeated him. What a shame for a member of such an order. Yang Wei, still restrained by Alma's firm hand, tells that a student at the Kai purification stage has just killed Wang He and Ma Jixiang. If not for this fact, Yang Wei would have fulfilled his mission long ago. His face twists in convulsions from how much he is being strangled. But the commander does not believe in his stories. That one person, and even a disciple, at the level of purification killed Wang He and Jixiang, who, for a moment, are laying the foundation. What kind of fool would believe that? The capillaries in Yang Wei's eyes begin to burst. He grabs the commander's large palm with his fingers, trying to do at least something, but he can only wheeze. He begs Alma for a second chance. It becomes clear that the two are still standing on the same roof of the playground, and behind them are the corpses of teachers. Yang Wei lifts up the communicator, barely squeezing out the words that everything is almost finished. Only the energy collection tower remains. Ma grins. This loser is still useful. He grabs the communicator and finally lets go of Yang Wei. He falls to his knees and coughs loudly. The commander projects an image of the city through a small device and decides to leave the tower to the henchman so that he can make amends in this way. Yang Wei is lying at his feet, still trying to catch his breath. Grabbing him by the shoulders, Ma looks into Liang's face, saliva dripping down his chin. He smiles sweetly at him, but the words are not uttered in a soft tone at all. Even if Yang Wei dies, he will have to lay the last bomb, and only in this case the order's task will be completed. The commander's eyes are bloodshot. Trembling with fear and stuttering, Liang replies that he understood the order from the beginning. A predatory smile, thanks to which 2 fangs become visible, adorns Ma's lips, and his hand, filled with a scarlet glow, rises into the air. Su Lai runs out of the dormitory building to meet Teacher Sun and Director Wu. Defao immediately asks why the headman is not with him. And it's true, the guy left the building alone, without his faithful companion and the student whom they pulled out of the dragon's clawed paws. Su Lai reports to the teachers. Lu Xing took the student they bumped into inside to a safe place, and left him to report to them. Sun here begins to worry about the condition of the students. Are they really not injured? And what happened in the dormitory? The guy, pleased with himself, tells how they found a portal under the building, but after its destruction everything returned to normal. Defa frowns at this information, because in this case it is not surprising that there were monsters everywhere. Someone established a connection with the cosmos. The director praises the kid for the work done, but they don't have much time to talk, since it's time for both of them to hurry to the energy collection tower. Standing on their swords, they finally tell Sulai to hurry up and go to the safe zone and wait for news there. The student is in a hurry to fulfill the order. It is still dangerous to stay outside. He would not like to meet the members of the order again. Xin Guang grits his teeth. Is this student in the period of Kai purification? He has the aura of Wang Qi. He watches Sulai leave from the roof. Had he killed 2 of his colleagues? Xin jumps down from his seat and immediately finds himself behind the student, who cannot help but feel a new danger. The killer points a finger at Sulai and demands to know why the energy of Wang Qi emanates from his body. Sulai freezes in indecision. Of course, he remembers the 2 guys he put in bizarre poses so that no suspicions would fall on him. But that's not what worries him at all. The guy in front of him. What? A dog. Once he feels someone else's energy. And which of those 2 was Wang Qi? Putting his palms together, Xin says that although Ma Jixang and Wang Qi were careless, however, he did not forgive Sulai for their death. A force similar to a burning flame gathers around the furious shorty. The fire grows to colossal proportions, cutting Sulai off from the rest of the world. And Shorty says that anyone who dares to violate their plans should be punished accordingly, namely death. Sulai finally realizes that in front of him is another member of Ermugant. Flames gather around the student, covering him like a butterfly cocoon. This is not a mist, but small particles produced from spiritual power. It seems as if he is surrounded by a barrier, because of which he cannot move. The spiritual power of each person is unique and is related to the cultivation methods and habits of people in everyday life. Wang He was good at physical cultivation, so his scent mixed with sweat. In Xin's memories, Wang He constantly boasted of his good form, and received only discontent about the fact that he stinks of sweat. Now Xin feels the same smell from Sulai. Inhaling the air with his nostrils, he determines the location of the student and attacks in that direction. He slightly injures Sulai, but the blood prevents him from looking with his right eye. How did this little guy find him? Xin smiles leeringly. The next second, Sulai gets hit on the right cheek so hard that he is thrown like a pillow of feathers into the wall. The student wipes the blood from his lips and raises himself on his hands. He can't lose. Stop. Didn't Xin say that he feels energy? If Sulai remembered correctly, then most of the trees planted near the school are excellent guides. This can play into your hands. It was just the flowering season. Sulai runs out to the center and summons energy. Even a bird in the sky spits out its lunch from the concentration of power it found itself in this territory. A whirlwind of small flowers begins to gather around the student. Now it all depends on how the blue sniffs. Things are pretty bad for the killer. The smells are mixed in the air, blocking the sense of smell. With his arms crossed, Sulai collects Kai, and with one movement spreads it everywhere. Where did Xin hide? But there is not a drop of fear on the killer's face. How can some student overcome him? He holds his palms out in front of him as the blue energy rushes at him at breakneck speed. However, this does not save Xin. Precise blows, like bullets flying out of a pistol, turn his body into a sieve. It's just impossible. The fire mist dissipates as if it never existed. Xin is lying dead weight against the wall, all covered with holes and torn clothes. The eyes faded. It turns out that even simple flowers can be used as a dangerous weapon for murder. Sulai sits down by his body. If there is no director, then all the good things that he will find now will go to the student. From his pants pocket, Sulai takes out an octagonal box-like thing with a snake-shaped infinity center in the center. He randomly pokes it and suddenly the mechanism inside begins to move. Sulai sees the projection of the city and immediately it becomes clear which of the many skyscrapers the purpose of the order is the one above which the crystal glows. This is an energy harvesting tower as Sulai defines it, and the moving yellow dot comes out. Yonghui stands at the energy tower. He looks around, asking himself why there are so many patrolling teachers here. However, he is not lost. Coughing into his fist, the killer attracts the attention of the nearest teacher. It turns out to be Chen Ying. She is perplexed by the fact that there is a student in such a place. The woman calls out to him. Yonghui immediately turns on all his acting abilities that he is capable of. His whole body begins to tremble, and, putting his hand to his heart, shouts that he is in pain. Chen Ying rushes to him to help. But as soon as she gets close, Yonghui pulls out a revolver from behind his breast pocket, almost the same one that Sulai took from Jixing. He puts a gun to Chen Ying's chest and laughs nastily at the fact that she so frivolously fell into his trap. A loud shot is heard, and before death, the woman realizes who is standing in front of her. She falls to the ground, choking on her blood. Yangwei says he's damned uncomfortable. The killer approaches the corpse and dips his fingers in the blood flowing from the chest, smearing the scarlet liquid on his face. He whispers that this is an example of how insignificant teachers can be. Something distracts his predatory gaze, and he disappears from the crime scene with high jumps. Defao walks through the area near the tower, looking from a smartphone. His 3 subordinates are not responding. Watching him from a height, Yangwei grins, licking Chen Ying's blood flowing down his face. He pretends to be the one who needs first aid again. Clutching his heart and barely moving his legs, he walks towards the director. Yangwei looks quite convincing. A thick trickle of blood flows from his forehead, and his gaze begs that he is about to fall senseless. Defao, like everyone before him, first of all thought that all students should be in a safe place. So what is this one doing here? He did not rush to help, as Chen Ying did, but only frowned. But later, he went to meet him, asking what had happened, like everyone else, taking Yangwei for a real student of their school. So Defao got caught. With a practiced movement, the killer pulls out a weapon. But the sharp eye of the director immediately notices it. When Yangwei shoots, Defao is already creating a protective dome. Member Ermugand, well, wow. Easily beating off the bullet, the director finds himself behind Liang, who looks with confusion at the place where his victim should have been standing. That's bad luck. Yangwei flies into the wall and coughs from the dust that has risen. Looks like he got hit hard. With a white-gloved hand, he takes a smoking pipe out of his pocket. Inserting it into his lips, he says that he did not expect the appearance of strong cultivators in Kaiyuan at all. It's really such a big piece of luck. Inhaling the smoke inside, he says goodbye to the director and exhales a lilac fog, which fills everything around with large clouds. But suddenly Yangwei stops, and blood begins to flow out of his mouth. He can't understand what happened. An employee of the school who appeared with orange magic chains in her hands uses a lock and attacks the shocked Yangwei. 3 chains fly towards the killer, and then tightly bind his body. What is this all about? Yuan Zhen asks him if Liang has decided to run away. You can't hide from her for sure. Pulling the links, she pulls the man towards her, who quickly realizes that things are definitely bad for him. Yuan finally caught him. Pulling him so close that he is in the strike zone, she hits him in the face with the flat heel of her boots, forcing him to spit out a blood clot. Liang is flying down, straight into the fog that has not yet dispersed and created by himself. Yuan finishes him off by landing with the toe of his boot on the opponent's nose with all his might. But Yangwei just doesn't give up. He points a gun at her directly from the humiliated and almost defeated position in which he is. However, in any case, he does not have time to do anything when Yuan finally finishes him off with an evil blow to the head. She gathers energy around herself, promising to avenge her colleague Chen Ying. But then the director unexpectedly stops her from killing. Liang Yangwei is the only member of the order they managed to catch. You need to take into account the circumstances and find out from him about everything, and not succumb to fleeting outbursts of emotions. Although the director himself is probably angry that Chen Ying was so shamefully killed by this bald dog. Yuan pulls Yangwei to her by the collar, almost growling with rage, but unquestioningly carries out the order given to her. Later, a revolver turns out to be in Def's hands, which even his energy could not affect in any way. He can't even imagine how many more weapons Yermugan members have. The consequences of their actions can be truly unimaginable. On the teacher's hotline, Defao reports that the order is killing teachers under the guise of ordinary students, so teachers should check everyone who approaches the tower. They may have a weapon in their hands that will be able to deal with the cultivator in 2 counts. Defao orders Yuan to take Yangwei to the training room, where he wants to interrogate. At the sports ground, Su Lai watches the tower through the device found at Zin's, although for some reason the map starts flashing brighter. The stupidest thought comes to his young head. Could Ermugan have hidden a treasure in this place? This idea seems extremely tempting. He carefully examines the place to which the map led him and instead of a treasure deposit finds deposits of explosives and explosive devices. Su Lai recalls the day when at the lesson of teacher Huiyade, who was not yet completely disappointed in life, he dismantled the structure of explosives and even held a demonstration. Teacher Sun instructively tells that the red wire should be removed first and only then the green one, but in no case vice versa. He also starts talking about what will happen if you first remove the green. But Su Lai finishes before the man himself has time to tell. The guy cuts the green wire in 2 clicks and immediately wonders what will happen if you do the opposite. The student at the first desk is horrified. With a satisfied smile, Su Lai shows that he first cut the green, and left the red untouched. The consequences turn out to be deplorable. The green wiring activated the bomb, so that the explosion quickly hides the first desks and most importantly Sulai in the smoke. Teacher Sun angrily calls out to this student, who hastened to retreat from the scene of the crime. Remembering Huaid's lessons, Sulai nervously gets to work. He only has one try. Commander Aoma looks at the map in front of him and doesn't understand why their plan didn't work. What is Xinguang doing? Why is everything going wrong? Wiping cold sweat from his forehead, Sulai exhales in a relaxed manner. All the defuse devices he has found are lying around him. He's finally done. He decides to check it on the map, but now it lights up red, warning that the object is approaching. The distance to it is 55 meters. Someone is coming to him, Sulai swears, because it's too late to attempt to escape. He manages to hide in the bushes, relying on the fact that he will not be visible from there. The angry commander comes here and shouts at the imaginary Xinguang, who had to deal with this. What's the fucking problem? However, he quickly notices that there is no one around, and when he looks down, he sees only the remains of the bomb. Sulai plays hide and seek very badly. As it turns out, lying down in the grass, he did not think at all that his heels were sticking out, and Aoma quickly notices them. Clenching his fists, he orders the guy to go out. What kind of childish games he has arranged here at all? The commander decides that he will stop wasting his precious time on persuasion and, saying that no one will blame him later, calls a huge ball of power into his hand, clearly intending to launch it directly at Sulai. His eyes light up red, like he's a bull who saw a rag in front of him. Sulai is still telling himself that he can't see at all. Aoma launches a golden ball at him, and then Sulai finally opens her eyes. What a powerful energy this man has. It is so powerful that it shakes the entire territory around it, and creates a powerful wave, similar to a tsunami. However, Sulai remains unharmed. At the last moment he managed to react and therefore avoided the fate of the bush, which was irretrievably destroyed. The commander asks where this student came from and why he has the badge of the order in his hands. Sulai replies in a sloppy manner that he got this thing from someone, and if Aoma finds the owner, then let him try to notify the student. The commander growls when he understands how the kid got the tokens. Such things are unique, they belong to Ermugand, and you can get them only in case of the owner's death. How dare Sulai mock him? Frowning, Aoma attacks him with a powerful blow, and the student barely manages to take a small step to the side so as not to be hurt. He realizes that the killer's speed and strength are not what they used to be. The indicators seem to have increased significantly. Maybe a man is the owner of a golden pill. The commander, in turn, draws his own conclusions. This guy is at the stage of Kai purification, but nevertheless Xinguang somehow managed to lose to him. Resting his boot on the ground, the man turns around with his whole body. It was just a demonstration performance. The main action will begin right now. He kicks Sulai in the face with all his might, knocking the whole spirit out of him, and he flies at full speed into a thick tree trunk. Blood gushes in a stormy stream from the nose. It hurts like hell. It feels like all the bones were ground into porridge at once and served for lunch. Sulai covers his nose with his hand, and the shadow of the commander rises above the big threat. He sticks out his little finger as if he needed only this finger to defeat Sulai, and asks if that's all for today. Maybe the student has something else to show. But how can he do anything if Sulai is only at the stage of Kai purification? The commander backhands his fist into the solar plexus, enjoying the torment of the student. He really can't do anything against such a strong opponent. Aoma laughs, and Sulai's world turns scarlet from the blood that runs down his face. The guy's bones turned out to be quite hard. They didn't break even after the commander inflicted so many blows on them. Sulai is lying by a tree, barely breathing and not seeing anything because of the scarlet liquid blurring her eyes. His whole body is unbearably sore from the elder's beatings. The commander takes the token from the student's weakened hands and moves away from him. Aoma made a mistake, so how can he contact Liang Yonghui now? Let him only dare to break anything else. Continuing to press the buttons on the token, the man moves further away from the teenager. But he immediately stops when he feels an almost imperceptible movement behind his back. Sulai picks up from the ground, and Aoma can only marvel that the boy is still alive. A grin freezes on the guy's lips. In his hands he holds a stone that has already soaked his energy, and asks why he leaves when he has played enough. Who does that? Kaiyuan school students are not easily intimidated. Sulai swings a stone. However, Aoma does not perceive this as a real danger. Does this guy really think that he can overcome him with a piece of stone? He mockingly pokes himself in the chest and asks the guy's opinion about whether he can survive the battle against him with one stone in his hand. Su Lai, not listening to him, throws, and the opponent easily catches his newly found weapon with one hand. Clap, and that's it. And now it's time for a real attack. With quick steps, Su Lai is hiding using distracting maneuvers. How interesting. The guy jumps like a frisky hare, not a person, from side to side, confusing the opponent's gaze, and stops only when he is behind him. He clasps the man's wide waist with both hands and triumphantly thinks that the plan has succeeded. Alma got caught. With a sharp movement, Su Lai knocks the commander on his back, although he himself is half as small as he is. Alma falls heavily, creating a small crater and a large shock wave around him, as if not a person fell, but a bomb exploded. Balls of dust rise and the figure of Alma, who has already risen, appears from behind them. Su Lai sees that the commander is now definitely not in the mood either to growl or to feel sorry for him. Wiping the blood from his lips, Su Lai is ready to fight to the last. Alma can't help but admire his little opponent. He has never met such a nimble one. Su Lai is the first in his memory. The man's thick eyebrows converge on the bridge of his nose. Now the boy has definitely come to an end. Glowing with golden energy, he attacks Su Dai. But he is not timid and calls on his strength in response. Liang Yonghui is kneeling on the school's training ground, still chained by teacher Yuan. The director says that now he will ask a question and it would be better for the hostage to answer it very honestly. What is the purpose of infiltrating Kaiyuan? It can be seen that Yang Yu got a lot from the teachers. The eye is beaten, the tooth is knocked out, bruises begin to bloom on the gray face. He answers without exaggeration or concealment that they have almost fulfilled the order's plan. Very soon, in just a few minutes, powerful explosions will be produced. Oh, is it really a collection tower after all? Liang is laughing like a madman. While 3 workers are guarding him here, all the actions of the order are already going into activation mode. There's no stopping it. Finally, everyone will know the true power of Ermugand. Teachers, without holding back, kick the prisoner with their feet for such a conversation, and even the director does not try to stop them. Defa asks how things are going with the energy collection tower. He immediately replies that a request has just been made for all teachers to explore every corner of the tower in order to understand the whole essence of what is happening. The director wipes the glasses and replies that in this case, the only way to make the school explode is to place a pile of explosives near it. He approaches Yonghui's battered face and asks where they planted the bombs, where the switch is hidden. It's better for Liang to loosen his tongue as soon as possible before Def runs out of patience. But he only gets a smile in response. How can he give out such information? If the director plans to spend his last moments of his life on him, then he will share them with honor and joy. A huge explosion illuminates the space. The prisoner's face freezes in disbelief. This is undoubtedly the power of the golden pill. Kaiyuan safe zone. Students sit either in groups or individually. Someone is playing. Others are examined by a nurse. But everyone is interested in one question. What is happening outside? There have been several explosions, so it's probably nothing good. Until the teachers tell you, you cannot leave the zone. 2 girls persuade their friend to stay here because this is the safest place. It will only create more problems for employees. Lu Xing overhears their conversation, but does not interfere. Her attention is more focused on her mobile phone. Su Lai promised to talk to the director, and then return to their safe zone. Where does he just wear it? Why not yet? Lu Xing cashes in on Su Su's contact and puts the phone to his ear. Nothing serious was supposed to happen. However, she anxiously bites her thumbnail, begging Su Lai to answer the call. A mechanical voice informs that the subscriber is out of the network coverage area, and this turns the headman's world upside down. Unpleasant thoughts come into my head that a friend has probably met with a strong enemy, and I will not be able to resist him. Tears of grief come to my eyes. She clutches the phone in her hand and runs to the exit with a tremor in her whole body. Nothing serious should have happened to Su Lai. Nevertheless, she rushes to the exit at full speed to help. The commander again makes a boy out of a guy to fight, this time by imprinting him into concrete steps. Su Lai, although he seems to have understood this before, is increasingly aware that he is not his opponent. Why does the commander feel a constant rush of blood into the body? His body must not have been so excited for a long time. Because of a special opponent, it's not a sin to stretch the bones properly. There is simply no other explanation. The commander comes out of the fighting stance and compromises. The guy is clearly not his rival, so let him remain an ordinary hostage. But Su Lai suddenly points behind him, informing him that someone is approaching. But can Ao Ma be fooled by such a cheap trick? Of course not. He smugly kneads his knuckles with his finger, intending to continue beating the crap out of the guy. Su Lai can only hope that the explosion should have attracted the director's attention. In the end, he will definitely not be able to cope alone. but the director would have dealt with this person in no time. Just let him hurry up, otherwise the student will not last long. The commander walks stiffly towards Su Lai, but suddenly a man begins to glow behind him, like a star in the sky. Bad business, this is not just a cultivator, but the owner of a golden pill to boot. He did it on purpose, specially detains the commander, because his main goal is to create energy fluctuations and thereby attract as many people as possible. When Ao Ma turns around, almost the entire teaching staff of the Kaiyuan school, headed by the director of Defal, is already standing behind him. Yangwei sits chained at Yuan's feet and does not dare to raise his head at his leader. Defal loudly announces that all members of the order, except the commander, have been destroyed, so it's time to surrender. Ao Ma's colleague betrayed him, but when Liang seems to want to object, the sealing spell does not allow him to open his mouth. Even his cheeks turned red and swollen from the attempt to speak. What a bunch of trash got into Ao Ma's team. None of them will be able to fulfill their mission properly. If everything is here, then the commander will fight with everyone at once and sort it out. That's the deal. But the man's body is pierced by acute pain, muscles cramp, and blood gushes from his mouth. He falls to one knee. Is this the residual energy from Su Lai's punch? Defao orders Sun and Lu to grab him, but Aoma does not give up so easily. He tries to take a step to the side, but Huade immediately pierces him with his energy. Teacher Lu, as in the case of Yangwei, hits his face with his heel, turning it into porridge. The blow is so powerful that the commander raises a cloud of dust when he hits the wall. The woman could not have imagined that smearing this man on the wall would be so pleasant. Su Lai in the background admires how long Yuan's legs are. The last words still come out of the commander's mouth that one should not look down on their order, they still have a backup plan. He lifts the top switch and with a cry that now everything here will be destroyed presses it. Everyone just looks at it, because they don't have time to do anything. After a few moments nothing happens and questions already arise. The man looks at the switch, not understanding why it didn't work. Then Su Lai announces with a sweet smile that he has dismantled all the bombs that were installed along the perimeter. He's a decontamination expert. Ao Ma growls at him, what a brat. Defa says in a menacing voice that the order has no more trumps. If the commander surrenders, they will hand him over to law enforcement agencies, and maybe he will even stay alive after all the atrocities that he committed. But how can the director think that the commander will give up so easily? Never. While the teachers are holding Ao Ma in the ring, Lu Xing calls out to Su Lai. She was scared to death for him, but he's fine, because the teachers and the director are here. The guy scratches his head in perplexity. It's dangerous here, why did the headman come then? But isn't the answer obvious? Lu Xing was worried about this fool. The commander laughs. There is one of the most powerful among them, and they don't even know what fun it is. However, no one understands what or who it is about. None of them will leave alive today. He raises his hand up and removes the seal from Yangwei. Look at him, everyone. The energy in Liang's body is raging and he no longer looks like a man. His skin has darkened, his teeth have become like an animal's. It's about to explode. Liang, or whatever he has turned into, is rushing towards the two disciples. Su Lai immediately goes out in front of her friend, asking her to go to the director and otherwise rely on him. With all their eyes, people are watching what this guy is doing, grabbing the torso of the creature and running to the commander. But he himself will die if he stays. However, let Ao Ma not even think that Su Lai will accompany him to hell. He throws Liang right at the man with all his might. Defa covers Lu Xing with her body, who reaches out with her hand to a friend who remains on the bare site. Folding his hands in a special way, the director announces that the heavens are ready and a very powerful collection of energy begins from every teacher who is here. With tears in her eyes, Lu Xing reaches out to Su Lai, but she is not allowed to pass. In the law enforcement building, a report is read out that at the Kaiyuan school, the system tracked an explosion with a range of 100 meters with a coefficient of 6.0. It is concluded that these are definitely members of the order, so they simply have to intervene in this.